Good morning, Doreen Moore, TRS Travel Resort Services Vacation Rentals.
Frank Hibbard, Mayor of Clearwater.
Good morning, Russ Kimball, Sheraton Sankey, Clearwater Beach.
Good morning, Steve Hayes, Visit St. Pete, Clearwater.
Good morning, Michael Zoss, County Attorney's Office.
Good morning, Ken Welch, Mayor of St. Petersburg.
Good morning, Clyde Smith, Billmar Beach Resort, Treasure Island.
Phil Henderson, Starlight Cruises, South Pasadena, Madeira Beach, and Clearwater Beach.
Very good. We have a quorum. Let's get rolling right into the agenda. Item number 3, approval of TDC minutes. Are there adjustments or is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mayor Hibbard, second by Mayor Welch. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Show it passes unanimously. Do we have any public comments? No public comments. We're going to move the order of the agenda this morning. We have some folks stuck on the Howard Franklin. So we're going to move from straight to item number 6, capital funding program guideline discussion. Mr. Hayes, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members. So that time for us to start discussing capital projects is up again. And if you remember in October, we had the initial discussions about some, what I would call some administrative changes that Mr. Zoss had gone through after discussion with the group here that he had presented, and we represented that again here today. What I'd like to do is start having the discussion on capital projects to go through and get your input in different areas of this, so that as staff, we can come back to you with recommendations of changes to the guidelines where needed for additional discussion and then approval. And then from there, open it, or once it's approved, pass that on to the BCC for approval, and then we can start the process for the capital guideline project. So again, what I'd like for us to have today is more of a discussion. And again, the document that you have in front of you was the blue lines that Mr. Zoss had provided. And then from there, there's some areas that I want to have further discussion on to get your input, so that the recommendations that we have come back are in target or in line with what you're thinking. So, Mr. Zoss, is there anything in there on the blue line that we want to pay attention to first, just for the group as a whole?
I don't think so. Let me double check, Steve. I don't think so. I think mostly it was just cleanup, nothing really substantive. I think the salient points to discuss for this group as far as recommendations would be most of the policy kind of considerations.
Okay. All right, if you'll pull out your document of the program guidelines, just some couple of notes that I've made, again, for conversation's sake, to get us moving in the right direction. On page 1 of the document for the guidelines, one of the areas, and we briefly talked about it, I believe it might have been in October, but we currently have 0.5% available for beach renourishment. And in there, the discussion was, do we have enough that's there in case something happens and we don't get funding from, let's say, the Army Corps of Engineers or another entity, and we still need to nourish the beach? Do we have enough money in there? Should we look at changing that percentage to kind of protect that for the future? I know Jim gave a good update on where we were with that reserve portion of it, but again, realizing how important the beach is to help generating the revenues, which we're able to do so many of these things, the question is that something we want to make a change in the policy or make a recommended change, or is that something you're okay with leaving at the time? I'm going to just open that up.
Mr. Henderson.
I was concerned about that when we discussed it, but Jim assured us that we're on track with what we need right now. We could always reach into other capital dollars if, federal matching, state matching ever started to deteriorate. And we could address it at that point. So, I thought we should be saving more, reserving more, but I think we'll have enough of lead time to be able to adjust that when the time comes.
Mayor Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have what is the reserve amount that's set aside for beach nourishment? Do we have an allocation that's set aside and reserved for beach nourishment now?
Yes, I haven't updated it recently, but the estimated beginning fund balance in FY '22 that was set aside in the capital fund, not in the tourist development tax fund. What we transfer out each year, the 0.5% that Steve mentioned, was just over $26 million. On top of that, we'll be transferring in, I think it's around $6 million in the current fiscal year. And then next year, we plan to not only do the 0.5%, but to increase that amount by the difference between what was collected that would have gone to beach nourishment if it was done in real time in FY '21 and what was actually transferred. So it's a little under $2 million additional money that we are transferring from the TDT fund to, I guess, to play catch up to FY '21. And we'll do that again in '24 based on collections and distributions in '22, if that's what the TDC recommends and the board approves. But we can do that every year. We can look back to the last year of transfers and what was collected and make the adjustments at that point. So we don't have to try to make amendments at the end of the budget amendments at the end of the fiscal year and try to get it in. It's just easier and cleaner to look at what the final numbers are and then make adjustments on the next budget request.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Jim, I love it when you talk numbers. It's good to see you again. So was that 33 million in total, 26 plus 6 for FY '22 and the 1 million true up?
Well, no, what'll be in there at the end of this fiscal year will be approximately the $32 million. It'll be the 26 that was in there at the beginning of the year. Well, and if they use some for beach projects, I don't know what exactly is scheduled for use.
In terms of what we set aside is about 32 million.
Yes, it'll be around that amount by the end of this fiscal year, minus whatever is actually used during this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
That's total total capital funds. That's not a beach set aside.
No, that's beach set aside in the capital fund.
Okay, that's what we have in reserves.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the beach-specific funds that we identify each year. And then the capital funds within the tourist development tax fund is much higher. It's projected to be around 70 million at the end of next year. That's after taking out the beach money that we will ask for in the FY '23 budget request. So
Okay.
right now, we're projected to be about $45 million at the end of this fiscal year in capital reserves within the tourist development tax fund.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not making a recommendation that we would change that right now, but we just want to make sure that in the future we keep in mind the changing climate and the effects it's having on the beach. Example of Sunset Beach is deteriorating much quicker than it has in previous cycles, I'll say, of the beach renourishment. So it's going to be a full year behind by the time they get to it in '23 of what's really needed for that community. Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the last 6 months, we had a really good update on what projects they were doing with beach renourishment and where the money was and everything, so I feel pretty comfortable with it. But I do think from a policy perspective, we should probably have that presentation annually so that we stay on top of it and it's in front of our face, because that money is never shown on our budget sheet. And I think it should be, because we never seem to know how much is really in there. And we get that nice budget sheet every month or annually, whatever. I mean, I think it should be a part of that discussion. Because we do focus on certain areas of beach renourishment, but there are a lot of beaches around the county that could probably use something, and I think we should be looking at that in the future. But besides that, I think we should get the annual update.
Mr. Anderson?
Jim, you mentioned that you're playing catch-up this year, and then you'll do it again in '24, so is it every other year or every 3 years that you would,
No, it would be every year we could do that. We'll, the FY '23 budget is the next one that's coming up, so we'll catch up for FY '21. And FY '24, we'll catch up based on FY '22. And FY '25 will catch up based on FY '23.
just in case there's something extraordinary that happens?
Well, it's not extraordinary, it's just, we don't know how much we actually collect until December.
Right,
That's when we get our last, or November is when we get our last collection for the previous fiscal year, and the budget is closed by then. We can't make any other changes.
we discussed
So
that, yeah.
they'll finalize the numbers, they'll make sure that everything's collected, and we'll know exactly how much money is available. And then when we do the budget in October, or in April, when it's presented to county administrator, and then in June or July, when we present it to the board, we'll know exactly how much money is available, extra money is available from the last previous full fiscal year.
Right. We discussed last time about, amending that amount during the year, but that requires a budget amendment. You said it's a lot more difficult.
Correct.
So
It
this is a way,
requires
an
budget.
end around to do the same thing.
Correct. It requires budget amendments, and it requires better forecasting than I'm able to do. And if things slow down later in the year, then we would have to make another adjustment. So we'll do it cleanly with a complete set of books, complete set of collections, and it makes it, you guys will hear everything, and it'll just be part of your process.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Prather?
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. We left the discussion 6-9 months ago about the difficulties that you at the county level were having. We've always had the same model. Property owners on the beaches own to the mean high tide line. For the Army Corps to go onto those properties and renourish the beaches as they've done for years, now there's a new policy. They want easements retroactively for every property owner, which is virtually impossible to have. Do you see any changing in that? Is there any update on that?
There's no formal update. I met with Congressman Christ and someone from the Army Corps and funding folks in Washington, and they understand our predicament, and they understand our concerns, and they're looking at it, is where we're at right now.
Thank
you know?
So we can
Yeah,
help.
it was just probably early February, and this was some of the new staff in Washington that, and they were very welcoming to our discussion, but, whether or not they'll give us that flexibility, I don't know. All right.
That was good feedback, so I appreciate that. Moving on in the guidelines, I'm going to go to page 6. And this gets into the funding standards. And much like we did with elite events, and looking at the measurables against the different funding levels, I forget who brought it up from this council, but an elite event had the same room night capability as if you had a new venue, a facility, or a new project. So on this one, just any feedback you would have on any other measurables you'd want to see. I think what staff can do is come back and look at this and try to be more realistic in what that number is. And I think the one change that was done, and Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, in this one, we go through and we look at the room nights right now, and that is on an annual basis, not over the life of the
That was something that we were still discussing as to if it was going to be an initial annual increase or if it's supposed to keep building, which seemed kind of impossible.
Yeah.
So that's still a point of, but I think the numbers is what you were trying to
Yeah.
get some direction from the TDC as far as if they thought those numbers were still reasonable.
Mr. Henderson?
I think it should demonstrate an increase and then maintain that increase. I can't see them increasing it by that much every single year, but each year over year, once the increase is made, because as a result, it should be recurring or should demonstrate the ability to be recurring. Along that same subject, back on page 5, I noticed G, applicants shall provide future marketing and/or sponsorship benefits equal to the funding contribution of the county. So you're saying in that I read that to be, if you get $5 million, then we should get $5 million in marketing and sponsorship back.
And if I may, I remember that conversation that came up during one of the cycles where there was funding awarded, and there was a little bit of confusion as to whether or not the guidelines as written intended that it be a dollar for dollar. If we're giving you $5 million, we're getting $5 million in return in value, or if it was more flexible for the BCC to make that determination based upon a recommendation. That's why this is now saying, or giving the alternative, either dollar for dollar or the flexibility. So, which could still be the same dollar for dollar, the BCC. You guys could recommend and the BCC could agree that, yeah, we're giving, say, $30 million and we're gonna have marketing deliverables over a period of 20 years, so $1.5 million, if my math is correct, is a fair amount of return for that. So that's just to build in a little bit more flexibility.
I see there's a note about whether it should be an amount to be determined by the BCC or if it should be just flat equal to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's either, and you guys can recommend, you can leave it as is, you don't have to make any of these changes, or you could say, yeah, let's make that change so that the BCC's got the flexibility to determine, and you guys can, as the TDC, make a recommendation when it goes forward, because all of this would go through the TDC first for a recommendation for funding and some of the terms, and then obviously the BCC would ultimately evaluate that.
My point is, it seems a little steep to provide that plus room nights plus visitors.
That's
Is
a
a
policy
requirement.
call, that's a policy call as well, as to whether all of those, that's something you guys could discuss and make a recommendation to the BCC to
So my-
modify.
The point would be, when you're looking at ways to adjust those numbers on page 6, you may want to also look at that paragraph G for a total expected return from the applicant.
Great feedback, Mr. Henderson. Any other comments on the section that Mr. Henderson brought up or the funding standards? So then the group as a whole is fine with us coming back with the recommendation and the rationale behind what that ends up being?
Yes.
All right. And Phil, I like how you said the total ROI. So maybe building it, so here's what the total ROI is, but it's made up of these things.
Right. I mean, to ask them to come up with 100% in marketing and sponsorship, as well as, bring 25,000 more and 10,000 more inmates.
Right.
A whole lot.
Phil, your mic's off.
Apologize. Yeah, my point was, it just seems, believe it or not, I'm saying it's a little much to ask, all that and all this combined, to get a net, more than 100% back. But they should be doing some marketing and some sponsorship for us, as well as producing room nights and attendees. But I'll let staff figure out what that mix should be.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, anything else on that part? All right, if we move to page,
Steve, I'm sorry, if I
I'm
might.
sorry.
There was a question, I think I addressed it with Mayor Bajowski, as to, under funding standards under 3, there had been an issue as to whether we wanted to continue carving out that exception for Major League Soccer. That's a policy call again, so that's just something, I don't know if you guys want to leave it as is, or if you want that provision struck from the guidelines. It's on funding, section on page 6, funding A3. And it's, and all it really does, frankly, is kind of formalize the fact that the board could always waive it anyway, and it was just kind of a built-in waiver, so you didn't have to ask the board to waive that for Major League Soccer. And that was something that the TDC at that time thought was important to include in the guidelines. It's a different TDC now. I know the mayor brought it up. That's why we're just saying, hey, give us some direction as to whether or not you want to leave that in or not, so.
I'd like to see it left in.
I think the intent is still to watch how that develops over the next so many years and where it goes. It could be great and for the area, and it's the right time of the year before the main season. But we just don't know right now, so I think the same thing.
Mr. Henderson?
Yeah, I don't think it's feasible to see a spring training actually increase, but actually the intent would be to maintain what they're doing as opposed to adding a whole lot to it. So I would see where that would be something that would be exempt or carved out. Probably waived every time a spring training facility came in and asked for dollars. So I think we probably should leave it in.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mayor?
I just thought I'd let you guys know that we did have a St. Louis Major League Soccer team in our city last month doing spring training. The head coach grew up in Dunedin, and he brought his team down, didn't ask us for a thing.
Nice.
It was wonderful.
if I might, and Mayor, thanks for mentioning that. We also had in the Union, we're back. I also believe Cincinnati was here. I could be wrong on that, but am I right? Am I right on that, Mayor?
Yes, they were scrimmaging with the Union.
Okay. And I also understand that there was a couple other teams in the Bay Area, especially if you go down into Bradenton area. So obviously, Major League Soccer felt that this wonderful area was a great place to get their legs going for the new season. So it's good to hear that St. Louis was here.
I gotta correct myself. I thought it was Major League Baseball. I see the S there now. For soccer, it's a totally different animal, I guess. So I'm gonna retract what I said, and you guys decide what you want to do.
The comment is that I like it because it falls in February, and they're gone before spring training for baseball. And February is one of those months that kind of ramping up, but it's not there completely, and you need that type of business. So I think the timing is good.
MLB, MLS, they're all the same. No, I'm just kidding. All right, next page then would be on page 8. And this is under the evaluation process. So one of the things that I'd like to throw out for discussion is looking at the evaluation process, and do we try to replicate what we are now going to be doing with elite events, where with staff working with a consultant, and we do have a consultant for the capital projects. Crossroads Consulting, based out of St. Petersburg, is the one who will be handling this. But working with them is to review all the applications, to ensure accuracy, all the information is there, and then for staff and the consultant to come back with a recommendation and discussion before this body. And then have this body then vote on those and move that up to the BCC. that would be a departure of what was done in the past, where you guys were actually doing the scoring and what have you. But, so I wanted to throw that out there because I haven't been through this before, so I wanted to make sure I was in line with the thought and then get some feedback.
Mayor?
I think it's a great idea, because I do think sometimes the process becomes a little political. We've seen that in the past, and I think having the experts, if you will, review the application, folks that have expertise in the tourism field, that can see benefits that maybe layman folks can't see. And we ultimately still get to see it and see your thoughts and have the dialogue based on the experts reviewing it. But I do think it's probably a good thing.
Mr. Henderson?
I agree. I echo that, and they're more qualified than we are to review these things, but the presentation should include some pretty good detail on how they got to where their recommendation is, going through the guidelines that are presented here. But they're definitely going to be more qualified than the random members here, so I would support that.
Mr. Prather?
When we typically have had the group presentations, whether it's an elite event or a capital project, and the asking party gives up and gives their pitch, and then we hopefully have done our homework in advance, and we listen to the pitch, and then we score. In this case, I'm with Mayor Majowski. I love the idea of you, Steve, and your team spending further time to vet each one of those in advance, you giving your staff's recommendation. My question is, are you also then going to have a follow-up behind your at the podium interpretation of the pitch, then to have the applicant also come behind you and do the typical, what we always have had, is give their pitch after yours or before yours? Is it both?
Ideally, I think you would have the applicants there, and then as we review everything, if there are questions of the TDC members, that the applicant is there to help answer that beyond what staff can do. If you feel a desire to have a presentation before recommendations, we can do that. But, you know, again, I have not been through this type of process before. So, you know, I'm not sure how in-depth you're going to want the information. But again, if staff's doing their job, we're reviewing everything in that application and can provide the recommendations based on that. The only thing you would have is if there's questions we couldn't answer, having the applicant there to answer that.
And of course, the follow-up to that is, if they don't agree with your recommendation, there's got to be an example that would come up where you're not going to recommend what they're asking, their full amount or not at all. Do they have a chance for rebuttal? And those meetings are long enough, I get it. We'll sit there almost all day sometimes in those. To add a whole nother layer of presentations, not that we can't spend another several hours in that room once, twice a year, but once again, I just want the people to be heard if they don't necessarily agree with your recommendation. I just, transparency.
And if I may, just to clarify a few things, the way the guidelines have been drafted pretty consistently, because they have been revised several times, there was never an intent for a full presentation, because we thought that would be turn into too much of a almost unfair to some of the smaller applicants, because you'd have much showier presentations and what have you. So it's basically the applicants are there, it's a public meeting, and they're there to answer questions if questions come up of whoever's reviewing it. That'll still continue. And to answer the final question, I think, Mr. Prather, yes, in the event that they was a funding recommendation or denial or less a funding at a smaller amount, that applicant can always go to the public meeting at the BCC and try to get the BCC to also reconsider the recommendation. Obviously, staff would give their rationale, and then the BCC would ultimately make the decision. So there is opportunities for them to kind of get their case across as to why they want the funding amount.
Thank you both.
Mayor Welch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree of moving it to a staff review process. As much as of a character building exercise it is for the chair to navigate that process. I hate to deprive you of that. You said you've never seen it before, Steve. It's something to see. So I think this is a great move. So I
I
support
thought you were
that.
going to make a motion to just give the chair the authority.
I thought that was, you don't need to say that, at least this year.
Mr. Henderson?
As part of the process, I would like to see whatever the recommendations are ahead of a meeting. I don't want to sit in one meeting and have to absorb it all and understand it all and know what kind of questions to ask. So I would think that whatever presentation is going to be given and the recommendations following that should be given to us in advance of a meeting so we have an idea and a flavor of what's going to be presented to us and be ready with questions or concerns, or have the ability to be ready.
I think very fair. Mr. Kimball?
I agree. I think it improves the process completely. And I think in light of the other projects we have on the other side, major events, it puts it the same for both of them, and I think it cleans it up a lot and gives us more knowledge before we do agree. And I like the idea.
All right, that's, thank you for that support. The other item, and I just want to make sure that we're looking at things correctly, and I know there was a little bit of discussion regarding the rating criteria. So I know as staff and the consultant, we would look at each project and then look, does it meet certain standards? Is there certain impacts, positive impacts to the community and the industry and what have you? So right now there are 5 things that are listed. One of the things that I'm going to add to this, and this will come out of strategic plan, is does it meet a strategic priority? Because I think that's going to be important. The other thing, and this was so on page 9 and item E, the extent the capital projects achieves geographic distribution, and again, points that were related to that. I think I understand the reasoning behind that, but if I could get some clarification, how important is that to this group, or do we just take that into consideration overall when we look at not only applicants, but the types of projects?
Mayor Bujalski?
I was just going to say that I think the reason that it was there is because there were a lot of projects that were sort of lumped in one area of the county, and it was a sort of a reminder to say we want to try and make sure we spread things around the county. That was why it was there. I'm not going to opine on the importance of it. I mean, I do think that should get consideration, but if it's a good project, you don't want to say no just because it's in the, wrong side of the county or whatever. But I think that's why it was there.
There is no wrong side of the county. Mr. Henderson?
And that's exactly what it was. We were trying to figure out a way to come up with some way to make sure these projects are dispersed across the county, not all lumped into north, south, whatever. But I don't know how to, I don't know how, like you said, if it's a good project, it's a good project.
So was it just to, like, if the last 3 years we funded all North County, we want to balance it out for the South County, they get a bonus 100 points? Or is it, I mean, because obviously you have a project that's not going to benefit countywide necessarily the same level.
Right, and it's, a lot of the 24 cities in Pinellas County are very small with like 5,000, 10,000 residents, and they don't get as many opportunities to have a project that is tourist driven. So when they do, they get, they should get the extra 100 points because of that, because it's in an area that might not normally be served by this particular organization or funding source.
Okay.
And
Phil?
it's kind of a tiebreaker. If you've got more requests than you have funds, well, you lean to the ones that are going to be spread out as opposed to awarding the ones that are all lumped together. Or if we've concentrated on one area, or awarded quite a bit in one area, then it's time to move it to a different part of the county possibly. But it's a tough one to to do. The intent's there, but hard to put in a measurable or a
Mayor?
guideline.
And so, following up on Mayor Blajowski's point, it's not necessarily geography, it's more an issue of an equitable distribution for some of the smaller communities. And so I think that is, to me, it's a balancer to make sure that, you know, countywide, everyone's getting a fair shot. One of the things, which was my original point, so I've lost my original point, Mayor. I did want to ask how we, and I know we're not looking at a specific project, but how does something like the Woodson that we talked about last month figure into this? It might not meet the criteria as we've laid it out because it's a brand new project. So would that category apply to something like that? Just trying to understand how we're going to approach that kind of a project.
Again, from the application standpoint, is to look at the project itself, what they are looking at accomplishing. And, you know, having met with them and then even seeing their presentation, I mean, I feel it would qualify just because of the types of folks that would be coming in to visit. The question is what does that end up being at the end? And we won't know that until we start getting the applications.
So we're okay with projections? They don't have a track record of attendance, so we're okay with projections?
I think so, because at the end, someone's going to come back and say, we project that by doing this, we're going to get X amount of visitors.
Yeah. I guess the Museum of the American Arts and Crafts is a good example.
Yeah.
It didn't exist, and now it's world-class.
And that received funding.
Yeah, it did. And that, again, was an example of why this process needs to go to staff, because that's the example I was thinking about. Because it received funding, but when it got to the commission, there was a whole debate there about whether it should receive funding. So the other thing I wanted to highlight is there was a push not too long ago to carve out a portion of the bed tax just for South County and St. Petersburg. And when we looked at, and I didn't support that, and when we looked at where the funding had actually gone, you know, South County had actually received more than its fair share. And so we do need to keep that in mind going forward, because that's what folks are thinking about. And of course, Tropicana Field is the biggest piece of that going forward. But that, I think we still need to address that issue. So maybe not, if it's not geographical, it's just an equitable distribution. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mayor Hibbard?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always get a little worried when we get too prescriptive, and yet at the same time, this language to me is somewhat ambiguous, because I don't know how we measure it or what the standard really is. We can look at where more funding has gone. Also, I think we ought to look at where more funding is generated. I'm a little biased that way, seeing as we're the largest funder of any of the cities. But, you know, I think it's a guideline. I don't think it's as easy to measure as we would think. And we certainly haven't put what too much funding in one area versus another is. So, you know, what Phil believes is too much one area, I might not believe it's enough. That worries me a little bit. I like having a standard that we could look at. That's one issue there. I fully support having staff vet these first, because hopefully you are more objective. We all know that sometimes when it gets to us, it becomes a little bit more political and sometimes more parochial. And so for the first filter, I think staff needs to be a large part of it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The last question did come back to me. Where are our strategic priorities documented?
They are being drafted at this time. And actually, that was going to be in my report just as an update, but we have a presentation to the BCC for a workshop on April 21st, I believe. It's a Thursday. So it's the day after our TDC meeting. And I was going to let you all know that date so that you could also attend, because we're going to have HCP give an update of where they're at based on the conversations they've had with leaders throughout the community, through the online surveys, through all of these different things. So again, that's where that update will be. And then from there, we can go through and say, here's some key priorities that, everyone as a group has set our priority for the county and moving forward. Now, how does that fit into, is it a capital program or marketing program, things along that line.
Thank you.
It is at 9 a.m. I just don't know where we are on that agenda. The last thing I just wanted to bring up, and again, so, let's say in this process we go through and we get 20 applicants that all have projects, but we only have funding to take care of 9 of them. Is one of the things I'd like to look at, and I don't know if this is in a guideline, but more maybe of just a direction from the TDC itself that we could then make the recommendation, is you take the projects, the 11 that were not on there, and it doesn't mean they're not good projects, it means there wasn't enough funding to take care of those, is that we still keep a list going. That we have and so that at the end, as a project comes on board, you put it into the list, and then we can always evaluate, utilizing the consultant and staff, other projects that happen to come forward at different times. It's a way to keep ourselves reminded of what is out there that can be done. And in the years that we're lucky and great things are happening and we have excess funds, then other things get funded. If we're in a time period where we don't have as much funding like we did with the pandemic, then we're not able to fund as much. So there's this list that's there, and I think we need to keep ourselves aware of that, because again, I think if someone's taking the time and effort to apply, they think that project is worthwhile, and we will know based on the conversations we have with them and as well as the consultant and our expertise. So have you guys ever considered that before? Do you think that's a good thing to do? Or just some thoughts. And again, I'm just kind of throwing out there, I doubt that this is a policy or a guideline, but it's just more of a philosophy.
Mr. Henderson.
I'm curious as to what kind of cycle we're on now. I know at one point we said we're going to do it every other year because it didn't make sense to do it every year. And we were committing funds out for 3 or 4 years, and there wasn't anything to award because it's already all committed based on our anticipated future revenues. So I'm not sure where we are right now with that. Are we still every other year, or is it every 3rd year, or is it any of the above?
Well, thanks to pandemic, that threw a loop. And so we were supposed to be doing this process in 21. Is that right, Jim? Is it 21?
I don't remember. 21 sounds possible.
Yeah, because it would have been 20 was when pandemic started, and we halted it because we didn't think the revenues were going to be coming in. So now, and again, listening to Michael, these are just our guidelines. There's nothing that's set that we have to do it every 2 years. We could do it every 3 years. If we're have great seasons and the revenues are there may be more if we wait 3 years than if we did 2. I think we just make that discussion ourselves. and as a group, and then we can set the dates and times after getting approval from the BCC.
Just one point of clarification, as currently drafted, and this has been consistent, it's supposed to be every 2 years.
Okay.
Obviously, we can waive that as a result, like in the pandemic, but that does not preclude, for example, the Florida Holocaust Museum came forward, and it was during an off cycle, if you will, and asked, and obviously, as long as it meets the statutory criteria and the TDC recommends it, you can always review the project and determine eligibility. So you're not tied into it necessarily, that schedule.
Okay.
Mr. Kimball?
Just to clarify, I think as we went through this time period, after baseball bond was paid off and everything, we went to no bonding and the philosophy that we're going to pay for it as we go along. But we also, schedule-wise, to do some of these, Steve, we spread out the payments to, I believe Dolly was one of those, or a couple of them, over a 3-year period, that they wouldn't need the money until this period of time. And I think that's how we were able to do a few projects that we wanted to do, but didn't necessarily have the money that day. And I think that's how we have accomplished some great things in the last few years over this, without as much money on it.
That's true.
Or
We
a
did that
delay
with
of
Dunedin.
something.
Yeah, we had
With the Jays.
we had paid off the trop, and we had added the 6th cent, and then we didn't spend any money for a year. So after that was over, we had a good bankroll that we were able to fund a lot of these big projects in a 2 or 3 year period of time, including Dunedin, Ruth Ecker, the aquarium, those kind of things.
We were a
So,
little bit playing catch-up because we hadn't been able to do anything. We had some great projects that had come along, and then we were fortunate enough, a couple of them came over 3 years, got it delayed a year, and then went from there. I think Phillies is one of those that was like that also, that commitment.
Mr. Henderson?
There was a former board member that wanted to see projects spread out over 15 and 20 years. And I think most of us were against that. And what we ended up doing was taking on big projects and trying to pay them as quick as we can. So we're not committed 10 years down the road, not knowing what's going to actually happen. And once we lock into that, we've got to pay that, and that might mean we have to sacrifice some marketing dollars. So moving forward, I think we should continue that track and just take these projects and try and pay them in the near term as much as possible, so we don't have that obligation hanging over us for years to come. And then we can see exactly what we have a couple of years from now. We say, okay, we can forecast that we need this much for those and we have this much excess. We can anticipate this much coming in, so we can open the process again. But I would be in favor of trying to pay things off as quick as possible, or, over a 2 or 3 year time frame, so that we're not obligated 10 years down the road to something that may not fit at that time.
Yeah, we had so much, quite frankly, we had so much money stockpiled in that short period of time. We also wanted to pay them down in those 2 or 3 year periods so that, and this we're talking back in 16, 17, that when it got to like 19 or 20, if there was a decision to be made on the raise, we would have that flexibility if we wanted to go that way. We're still sitting here in 22 without having to make that decision, Mayor, but maybe someday we'll make that decision. Mayor, did you have something?
Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Henderson on that. When we fund a project quickly, we can actually fund it with less money because the present value. Whereas if we stretch it over many years, it's a much larger dollar amount because whomever is doing it is then having to finance the project. So if the money's there, I think it should be done in shorter periods of time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My only concern of this part of the discussion is the words foregoing marketing dollars, that if we overextended ourselves, we don't want this to bleed over into the 60%. I think it's very important. Maybe we keep a certain amount as contingency in case we do have an off year or years for some reason.
Yeah, we won't bleed over into that. I think there's a whole room full of people to make sure we won't do that. Yeah. Anyone else? The only thought I had on I think it's good to be aware of the projects that are hanging out there. That always helps form our discussion. The only thing I wouldn't want is, all right, you have 7 projects, we funded 5. I don't want a presumption of those two projects that the next time we fund, that they're first in order, that they've got to go through the evaluation process just like any other current new project that comes along. That's the only, I don't want a presumption of, well, we were finished last, but we're first next time. Nope, starts all over. Anyone else?
Data points, what is our current revenue per penny annually? Is it still in the $9 million range? No?
No.
Give me 1 minute.
And the second question while you're looking that up is, do we have a schedule of the capital fund and the projects and their status, like the Dolly? We've allocated money, but they haven't moved forward. Do we have a schedule like that?
We don't have any commitments because we don't have any agreements with either the Dolly or the Phillies or anybody else. There are negotiations, I believe, that have been going on. And Steve and Michael can correct me on that, but I don't know where they stand, but they've both asked, and maybe others have asked as well, for funding, and there's been an agreement in principle by the BCC to move forward with negotiations, but there's been
Do we
no-
have a schedule that shows the funds, whether they've been allocated or not?
Yeah, nothing is allocated. The only project that we have in the capital at this point is our annual commitment to beach nourishment, and we have $350,000 in the current year budget for the Florida Holocaust Museum, which will probably not be spent this year, so we'll roll it over to next year. But there are no other commitments
So
to
what's
the fund.
What's the fund balance, capital fund balance?
The fund balance.
Jim has a great PDF chart that he sends us out that
Yeah,
maybe.
and that
I think
will be.
that's what I need.
Yeah, that will be updated. We're in the process of doing the budget evaluations for all the departments, and we will have that by the next meeting, which will be the budget meeting. So we'll have that available for you at that point. But it's, as I mentioned earlier, it was, it'll be approximately $49.5 million at the end of this fiscal year. And we're looking at probably around $70 million at the end of next fiscal year to be in the reserves. Now, that's assuming that we don't add any projects to their budget at this point, but the only capital funds we have going out are beach nourishment and Florida Holocaust Museum.
And the Dolly allocation, and if the Phillies come to an agreement, would come out of that 70 million?
Correct. That would have to fit into that total and any other project at that point as well. So that's the pool of money for, and there's also the St. Pete Historical Society, I believe, have asked for money as well, but there hasn't been an agreement.
The History Museum?
I believe it's about just under $3 million is what was originally asked for a couple years ago. The agreement has not been in place, so we have it identified as a potential future project. It's just not, it's below the line, it's not above the line.
Okay. Well, when you send your schedule, I think that'll answer my
There
questions.
was,
Thank you.
there was significant adjustments to the original plan of both the history and the Dolly that is causing some of this.
I believe at the Phillies as well.
Yeah, I think that's a whole other conversation. Mayor?
Excuse me, but the total per percent is, we're estimating about $14.3 million in this current year.
How much did you say?
14.3 per percent, and it's probably a conservative figure. And we'll have a better idea again when the budget discussion happens next week.
I was just going to say, and I do kind of understand why Steve's asking the question about understanding what projects are coming. I think the smaller ones, none of us really worry too much about. I mean, the two big questions, and no pressure on the two mayors that are here, are the Rays and the Phillies. And I think it might be helpful, and you may not be able to do that today, which I understand, but I think it would be helpful for us to have an update on what's happening with that, because I think when you're looking at these things, if we all agree that you and your staff are going to be the evaluators, right, initially. And I know these things are going to go to the county first and all of that stuff. But I mean, those two can eat up all our money for a long time. So it would be, I think it's important for us to at least have that dialogue and understand where they are in the process and be aware of it. Other smaller ones, I don't think are problematic, but these two, I mean, if the rays stay, that's gonna be a number, big number, you know? And we all know that. So I just think it would be good to understand it, where we are in the process with it. If there is an understanding, I don't know.
Mayor Hedberg? He's going to solve the problem right now.
Well, no, all I can tell you is we are continuing to have dialogue with the Phillies literally on a weekly basis. They have had some fairly significant changes in their management, which has caused a new viewpoint on some of the things that they want to get accomplished. We're celebrating their 75th anniversary in Clearwater this year.
Nice.
I have every intention that we will someday celebrate 100. They understand what their obligation is going to be, and I think there's some exciting developments that are coming that I can't go into further, but I think it'll be pleasing to everybody.
Good.
Mayor?
Just as a quick update, I have met with Chairman Justice and Barry, and the plan is to come to the TDC and the County Commission and the City Council when we get to that point.
Of course.
We're basically just trying to reestablish the relationships, and it's going really well.
Good.
Between the entities. When we talk, we can't talk TDC. We're talking broader issues as it relates to St. Pete and the county working together. But we do plan to come together and talk to the TDC and the commission.
You know, since I have the mic, I'll tell you something kind of interesting. When we were doing the negotiations with the Blue Jays, you know, 5 years of that, I mean, these things go on forever. One of the things we had said to them was that, you know, we didn't want them to try to create that dorm on their property kind of thing.
Right.
Because we wanted, it was important to get bed tax dollars and have them out in the community, you know, like their minor league players, because they, at the time, had 7 teams. I don't think they have that many now, but, so they are building at their own cost, at all the full development rights, on Dunedin Causeway, their own Jays Hotel for their minor leagues, I don't remember how many rooms. It's gonna be a full-service facility that they are paying bed tax on, and it will be used for short-term rentals for the small amount of time they won't be there. So I thought that was a really interesting way that they went about it, and we have costing the taxpayer no money, and it's gonna actually contribute to not only the bed tax, but property tax, sales tax. I don't remember, I'm sorry,
How's it coming along as far as timing? When will it be open?
Hopefully by next minor league season, so that would be the end of next year. Training, yeah, because it's for the minor leagues, it's not for the major leagues.
Sure.
But they do so many hotel rooms anyway. I mean, they would be contributing through hotel room bed tax anyway, but this way, they're all in one place, it's a lot less
Sure.
travel and,
It's a neat concept.
yeah.
Anyone else? All right.
All right, that was great feedback. The last thing I wanted to bring up, and again, when we look at, you know, the capital projects or the capital program, there, you know, it pretty much mirrors what is in the tourist development plan, and I know everyone's familiar with that item. And I know that when you compare our plan to the state statute, there is at least one item, major item, that is allowable now in the statute, what is not allowed in our tourist development plan. And that gets down to, I think, some infrastructure issues. Michael, if you wouldn't mind, just touch on that briefly.
Yes, sure. It's the addition a few years back specifically that Steve's referencing. There's also an addition as to estuary and lagoons and some other bodies of water that is not in our plan, but specifically he's referencing the public facilities, which can include sanitary, sewer, I believe solid waste, transportation, and pedestrian facilities. That is a fairly recent addition to the statute, about 4 or 5 years ago. It was discussed at the time. The joint BCC and TDC did not want to amend the plan to include the possibility, which would be the first step, because it is statutorily allowed. So I think that's what Steve is talking about, whether or not this body wants to have that dialogue and make a recommendation to the BCC, whether they want to reconsider amending the plan, which would be the BCC's decision to allow for that. That would be paid out of capital as well.
And add a little bit of context to that, I was in a meeting here recently, and I know it's come up from some of the commissioners related to the tourist development plan and the potential of having discussions with this body on certain things related to not necessarily the marketing side of it, but, you know, as Michael alluded, the infrastructure item. So again, I think what would be, I would love to get feedback from this group is, you know, appetite for having that discussion, learning more, and then direction going forward from here.
Mr. Henderson?
Aside from the Phillies, do we have any other looming requests for capital? Is there any discussion with any other entities right now?
Dali.
Well, the Dolly is hanging out there, the St. Pete History Museum is hanging out there, the Woodson Museum will be coming, obviously, the Rays, the mayor and I have a bet on that, but the Rays is a potential request out there. Anybody?
I think that covers it, that I'm aware of.
Sounds like a pretty
Phillies,
full
I'm sorry,
plate.
yes. I thought he mentioned the Phillies.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it seems like a pretty full plate, so I would not be in favor of opening up to any more categories, especially infrastructure that probably should be taken care of at the city level.
Well, the question is, you know, I don't think, just from my conversations on the commission, we did get into a little good discussion at one of our recent meetings about it. There was not necessarily an interest in having TDC money, TDT money pay for like paving this part of the causeway, doing something like that. But if it could help fund a transportation enhancement or a transit enhancement that would directly impact tourists, then there was a different conversation to be had. That was where the conversation was going at our last commission meeting.
Well, I would agree to that if we could parse out certain pieces of that.
Right. That's where, I mean, that's, you know, that's where I sense the commission going. I don't sense we're going to divert it. But on the other hand, you know, those projects that we all mentioned, except for the Rays, could be fully funded with what we have in reserves and be done. And then next year we start again. And so the question is, other counties around the state have said we need to use some of that money for the impact of tourism on our infrastructure, on our things. In the north, in the Panhandle, they use it for law enforcement, law enforcement, and first responders. So it's just a discussion that's going to be had, and especially if we continue to have these kind of numbers, and especially if we get a definitive no from the Rays, then that frees up a big chunk of this conversation. So anyway, that's where it's been going. Mayor?
I think it's worth having the dialogue. You're not looking for an answer today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think having the dialogue on what that might look like, I totally understand what Phil's saying. I wouldn't agree with doing sanitary sewer either. I don't think that's the purpose, but I think the mission of our organization can, as the law allows, support transit support systems that are primarily used by tourism or affected by tourism or whatever. And how that's defined, I think, you know, is a much broader conversation that we can have today. But having the option, it doesn't mean you're gonna do it. And certainly, knowing everybody in this room and knowing our BCC, it's gonna be heavily scrutinized as to, does it really serve tourism in the way the law allows? But I think having the dialogue
Well, I
and
think-
understanding what, what could it be and what kinds of things we might want to see in the future is certainly worth having.
And the kind of the direction that this board gives staff will also be helpful as far as, how our staff looks at the statutes and delves into the outer ranges of that statute.
Well, Michael knows how I feel about it. I absolutely think that capital means, trolleys and boats and things like that. So I know you guys are looking into it again. I've seen that.
Yeah, and that's where it's centered on.
Yeah.
It came up when we were talking about a
Waterborne
more robust
transportation.
ferry system
Yeah.
on the intercoastal. That's really where this conversation, it was, obviously, there's always talk about airport to beach,
Right.
transportation, those kind of
Transportation.
things.
Yep.
Since Mr. Zoss mentioned it, what about the other part that has always been in statute that we've never done, the Lagoon and Estuary improvement? There was some thought last year by some commissioners about at least looking at that as far as some county or public-owned parks, for like Fort DeSoto. Not every small neighborhood park, but a major park like Fort DeSoto, which has significant estuary enhancements that we've used grants and we've used penny money over the years for. If there's any appetite for that discussion.
I would think you just add it all in and have that dialogue. Doesn't mean we're going to move forward with it,
Mayor Welch?
but why not?
I'd agree. I think we need a business case for any of these and see what the nexus is with tourism. I mean, we're doing nourishment at Fort DeSoto, right? Or,
I guess theoretically we would. I don't know that we have, but yeah.
so I don't see the real difference, but that's coming out of the 40%, right? We're still talking, all
Yeah.
this is out of
The
the
60% is,
Yeah, sacrosanct. So, yeah, for any of these, let's see the business case and talk about it.
all right, you have enough direction?
Yes, sir, I do. So again, thank you for the feedback overall on guidelines. Again, I enjoy the conversation because it gives me an idea of direction, then we can pull things together and then come back to you. Yes, sir?
Steve, one final point on the guidelines that I think we missed, just to get some clarification and direction from the TDC, the issue, whether the payment's going to continue to be on a reimbursement basis. When these guidelines were initially drafted, if I recall correctly, it was silent as far as how we paid for these projects, and then we switched the mode. Instead of going bond financing, we were kind of paying as you go. And so it got a little chaotic as far as meeting the, keeping track of those payments as the contractors were submitting bills. You had multiple projects going on. It was a big drain on staff and resources. So the BCC decided, and I think the TDC concurred at that point, to go to no, we'll reimburse you at the end of the project, once it's completed, one lump sum. And so there's been some applicants who recognize that while this is basically free money to them, they also want to be able to get paid as they're constructing and want it in phases. So one of the recommendations that we need, or at least a suggestion would be, do you want to build in this, the flexibility to allow the BCC ultimately to decide, nope, it's going to be on at the very end, or we're going to allow phased payments throughout the process? Because right now it's on a reimbursement basis.
I think you would want to put that in the negotiation discussion.
So you
Whoever's doing that, I mean, that's what I would think, because again, like, if you look at the Jays situation, it was 40 million over 3 years. We had to go take out a sizable loan to do the project, and then we were getting payments each year, right? Those 3 years, something like that? I mean, we didn't have that cash on hand, is my point.
They were periodic, they weren't yearly, they were.
Right, they were periodic.
As the invoices were submitted, I believe.
But if you've got a new museum, where are they gonna come up with that money? You know what I'm saying? So I think it has to be a case-by-case negotiation situation.
Mr. Henderson?
I agree, as Mayor Hibbert mentioned before, it could be more expensive if we wait. As Mayor Brzezowski said, they had to take out a sizable loan, they had to pay interest on that, and that's factored into the whole cost of things, and then it's factored into the amount they're asking from the county. So a case by case, depending on what it is, how long it's gonna take. If it's something, it's a one-year deal and they can afford it, then we do one lump at the end, but if it's something that's going to be spread out and it's going to take more time to build, and they need interim payments as they go, that could be a savings to them and to the county.
Okay. Mayor?
I'm just concerned about certain organizations that are more startups. This can be the tipping point between whether they have a project or not. And, with our more established venues, for instance, the aquarium, they had the borrowing power to front all the costs if need be. But somebody new like the Woodson, probably not. And so I think you need to leave the flexibility there. If we think the project is worthy of doing in the first place, then it's also worthy of helping finance on the front end rather than the back.
Mayor?
And I concur with Mayor Hibbert and Mayor Plajowski as well. So is that language in here now? Would you have to add that for that flexibility? Okay.
It's currently reimbursement only, so we would clarify to just allow flexibility.
You've got blue lined. When did you change from red line to blue line?
I have no idea.
Okay. You say other than funding for bond debt. So give me an example of that, because that's
Pay as
excluded.
you go. Michael? Where are you
But if you're
referencing?
gonna bond the project, then you obviously are excluded from the
From the reimbursement,
right.
correct.
So what projects have gone that route?
Well, I think every project that we've funded the last cycle was all pay-as-you-go, so there were no bonds
So we've
issued.
never done a,
Not recently,
Okay.
not recently.
Okay.
That last, I believe, bond issuances were the ones for the Rays back in the 80s or whenever that was, and then the Phillies and the Blue Jays at one point. That was also bond service,
okay,
correct?
all right, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Great. Thank you, members of the council. Great feedback today on this discussion. So, Mr. Chair, if that's all I have on this topic.
All right. Are we ready to go back to item 5?
We are ready to go to item 5, and this one is industry presentation. And on that, I'm going to have between our partners at BVK and Miles Partnership to talk about what we're going to be doing in the next 6 months, really through the end of September. Before that, and I know she's sitting silently in the back, but I want to make sure you all recognize that Katie Bridges is back with us after her maternity leave. And we're excited to have her back. And so she entrusted the process to me. BVK is still going through counseling after all this. But no, we're excited to have Katie back and leading our efforts, especially with our BVK team. And then Eddie is back there as well, who interacts with our Miles Partnership team. So is Carmen going first or, yep? All right. Yeah. Carmen Boyce with BVK.
You might need to turn that microphone on at the stand.
Is it?
There you go.
Okay, there we go. All right, awesome. Good morning, thank you. Good to see you all again. I'm going to go through the first set of these slides fairly quickly to get to some of the new stuff at the end. I put a couple slides up here at the beginning just to kind of remind us of our conversation back in September. Everything that we did for the first 6 months followed our annual plan of marketing objectives and goals and strategies, and we are continuing to follow those. So I'm going to present the back half of the fiscal year today. But these were our objectives as we started our year. Obviously, driving visitation, wanted people to stay longer, spend more, build our awareness, and obviously we want to serve all of our wonderful partners here in the destination. So as we started looking at our plan and what we wanted to do, one of the key things we wanted to do is have continuity with our core media plan. I'm not going to go into great detail, but we are continuing a lot of the things that we started at the beginning of the year. We also looked at our current travel trends. I know Dave with Destination Analyst was here last month and shared a lot of that information with you. And that's obviously something that we've been monitoring closely as we moved into our planning process. One of which, of course, is right now, people want to travel. People are ready. There's a lot of pent-up demand. We're benefiting from it. It's wonderful. But we also want to keep that going and stay top of mind with all these folks. We've also been looking at, obviously, our trends, which we and our lovely destination are doing well with, our pacing right now. And then the last thing, as we were looking at our considerations, is we looked at the brand research. Again, Dave, I know, shared some of that with you last month. We wanted to look at that, to look at how can we tell a deeper story about our destination. People know we have these lovely beaches, and we're never going to not talk about our beaches. But we also want to broaden our conversation to let people know what a vibrant destination we are and all the lovely things that we have to offer. So we're looking for unique opportunities to do that. Again, real quick, our planning considerations are our markets, our audiences, and timing. We have our developmental markets, which are the markets that are out of state. We're continuing into those. Obviously, continue with our maintenance markets, which are key markets in state. Our audience remains the same, adults 25 to 65 with a household income of 100K plus. And now this plan is taking us from April through September. This is our marketing channel breakdown. It just kind of gives you an idea of where we're spending with each of our media channels. The big blue here is broadcast and cable within TV and radio. Out of home is the orange. Within that, we also have print, which is the yellow. We have a lot of other, and that includes a lot of our sponsorships that we're doing, sports sponsorships and so forth. And then all the other little pieces there are all of our different digital components with SEM, digital display, longer form, digital TV, and search. So to the core media plan. So we're continuing with our broadcast media. We're going to pick that up in July and run through September. Again, in our same developmental markets that we just talked about. Radio will be running in our developmental and our maintenance markets. And new, you're going to see some promotional extensions I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. Out of home, we're going to be running that May through September. This is a great vehicle for staying cost effective, getting a lot of eyeballs to see about our lovely destination. We're running this in our developmental and maintenance markets. And something new to the plan this year is our billboard domination. So we're going to have key locations where instead of just running one message, and then you'll see a change up and a different message hit the board from another advertiser, we will have consecutive messaging. So we will have 4 or 5 boards all in a row. Obviously, this won't necessarily be on a board that's on the side of a highway, because if someone drives by, they wouldn't necessarily have that opportunity. We'll have these in key locations where people will be in front of a board long enough to see that whole sequence of messaging to tell a broader story about us. Print medium. Print media is a really strong vehicle for us. Our audience indexes very highly with print. Anything over 100 is great. And with these, many of these titles go up to 135, 140 index with our readers, so we love being in print. It's also one of the big influencers for inspiration for travel. So again, we select these, handpick these to make sure they're in the right place with our audience. New to the plan this year is Midwest Living and Southern Living, and a new half-page spread. The half-page spread basically runs across 2 pages like full-page spreads, but it's the cost of a single. And the beauty of it is it gives us that lovely presentation and dominance when you open the magazine, but also it eliminates us where we're not going to be against other advertisers. It's all editorial above it. So it's a really efficient way of having a more prominent placement. And we're going to have those in Garden and Gun and in our city lifestyle publications. Arts is a priority for us, obviously. And our arts enthusiasts read both national arts and culture publications. They really look to these for enjoyment, as well as they're high readers of the city lifestyle magazines. So we'll continue our arts messaging in both of these types of publications. And again, in our city lifestyle magazines, we'll introduce that half-page spread. A couple other areas that are very important to us are our niche audiences. So we will continue to run in Passport for LGBTQ+ Plus, as well as rolling out in Chicago and Atlanta for a Black audience. So that was just a super fast speech, just to give you kind of the core elements of our plan. Now to go through some of our overlays and extensions. We're really excited about these opportunities that are our TV promotional extensions in Indy, Orlando, and Atlanta. We're going to have long-form opportunities to really talk about everything that our destination has to offer. We're going to have 2 to 3 minute vignettes or interviews. We'll be able to show B-roll. We can also include many of our industry partners to highlight their businesses and what makes us truly unique experience here in St. Pete Clearwater. We'll be able to do takeovers on one of our stations. We'll actually, every time there's a news running throughout the day, we will have our placement in there. We'll have sweepstakes, online inclusions, and lots of promotion of these actual extensions. So it's a great way to tap into a loyal audience for these viewers and tell our story. Another opportunity that we're going to be doing as an extension is in Nashville. We'll be sponsoring the weekend weather. So as people are looking for something to do on the weekend, we're going to talk about how lovely it is here in our lovely destination and have wonderful integrated messaging into their newscast. Another big promotional extension this year, and this is a first for working with iHeartMedia Group. We're going to be doing 13-minute podlets. And what's beautiful about these is that these aren't just podcasts that we're just producing and then distributing on iHeart. But these are actually going to be able to tie into people within iHeart influencers, so DJs and personalities, based on their interests and unique experiences in our destination. So for instance, if we have an influencer that's a big fisherman, we'll hook them up with Dylan over at Hubbard's Marine and have them interview Dylan for a 13-minute podlet about all the fishing here in this destination. What's beautiful about that is it taps into that influencer's loyal listenership and tells a story that we know is important to him and that they enjoy listening to. But it also gives an opportunity for us to highlight things in a really, truly unique way by tapping into our own subject matter experts. So these will run as 13-minute podlets, and they'll be available on the app library with iHeart. They'll be available through our website, on social channels, streaming audio. They'll also be edited down and run on broadcast radio stations. They'll also run on the influencers' social channels as well. So we'll have a lot of distribution of telling this deeper story. Another new opportunity for this media plan is working with Ryan Gorman on WFLA. This will be running here locally, and it'll be an opportunity for us to run a 5-minute segment, one each month, focusing on the business of tourism. So we can bring to that conversation members within the community, partners in the community that can help tell that story of how important travel and tourism is to our residents and to all of our stakeholders throughout the destination. But again, a really great way to be able to reach our audience through that program. Next, again, another new for this media plan is doing a promotional extension with Tourism Talk Florida. I'm sure you're all familiar with this program. It's highly popular public affairs show that's the Florida Roundtable. We'll have a monthly program on there that's 10 minutes, and it will be an interview where we can bring stakeholders in. We can bring in economic development. We can bring in a lot of different people to talk about, again, the story of tourism and everything that we have going on. We can talk about events. We can talk about value. We can talk about economics. A lot of different things that, again, give us a great platform of telling a longer story. Our influencer programs, we've seen a lot of success with these, and we're very excited about bringing 2 new programs, one this spring. And this one, the one for the spring is especially exciting because we'll be going into niche audiences, and this will give us a wonderful, authentic way to reach our LGBTQ and Hispanic audiences. We'll be partnering with influencers in these niches in our key developmental markets, and it will give them, they'll come and they'll talk about things including the beach and all the things beyond the beach. As influencers do, they'll be posting all of that, recapping about it, and we'll get all the assets that they produce as well. For the fall, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to talk to an up-and-coming influencer in the state, as we want to, encourage travel to St. Pete Clearwater during the fall. But we're going to also have them promote a sweepstakes to other influencers. And whoever wins the sweepstakes will come into the market and they will post and talk about all of their experiences here in the destination as well and encourage travel during the fall. Of course, some things that really will be exciting are experiential opportunities. We love promoting arts. We know this is a big priority for us. So this fall, we're planning to go into a couple of our key markets and have an artist paint murals in particularly highly trafficked areas. And then we will also do an augmented reality overlay. So that as viewers come up and see the art, not only can they enjoy the art and learn more about our destination, but have an opportunity to really experience it and get engaged in a way, that's truly unique. It also gives us a great platform for reaching out to media and host them to talk more about our arts scene here in St. Pete Clearwater. Additionally, we'll be doing some more activations. We had some great success with Zoo Lights, which you guys are familiar with. We also had a wonderful experience in Nashville with the Stadium Series during Winter Park just a couple weeks ago. So we want to continue that momentum that we've got, and we want to support the arts again through the Atlanta Arts Festival, great market for us. In August, they do have one of the largest arts festivals in the Southeast. We want to be there with a booth as well as looking at an interactive overlay with a local artist. And then, of course, sports. We'd be remiss to not mention sports. We're doing activations with the Philly Union during their Pride Night on June 26th. Which brings me to digital.
Good morning. So just a couple of headlines to go through. It's been a really solid year, and in 2021, some pretty impressive statistics with respect to just traffic. 2.2 million new site visits more site visits compared to 2020, and even going back to a pre-pandemic, 1 million more versus 2019 for a 21% increase. Digital's been performing real solid, and visitors to the new visitstpeteclearwater.com website are looking at more pages. They're more engaged. They are doing the things that you want them to do. A lot of that comes from content, from site design, but a good portion of that traffic also is media. And so we're finding highly engaged folks that are interacting with your content, learning about the destination, discovering, and ultimately booking. We see that in the fact that about half of the growth last year really came through organic and direct channels. And in addition, the communities and partners, vitally important components of who we're trying to market to, have also seen some really solid performance. With page views of all of the community content on the website up 142% for the 6 months after site launch to the prior period, as well as deals, partner views, looking at their content and the businesses throughout Pinellas County. We're seeing that up 505% versus 20 and 545% versus 2019. So real solid improvement and growth within the performance. I think for 2022, when we look at the strategic objective, we want to make sure we're leaning in. A lot of our research is telling us, for example, that Florida is top market. The interest is really starting to peak, and as we start heading into our spring and summer campaigns, we want to make sure that we have a strong share of voice within Florida to promote this destination and really encourage consideration. Building awareness of all there is to do, to see, and everything else also really means that we've got diverse audiences that we want to talk to. And so we're supporting that in a lot of ways through brand alliances, bringing followers of strong brands in arts and cultures and other markets to our marketing program to make sure that there's good continuity there. In addition, because of that burgeoning art scene within the destination, we're spending a lot of time in doing things with additional media that really showcases what's going on. And finally, since weekends have been so strong in the data that we're looking at campaigns to help drive some midweek traffic and make sure that we're promoting longer stays. So the plan right now, there's kind of two components. There's always on. There are certain things that you just always need to be doing. 30% of our plan is awareness, 40% in consideration, 30% activation. So we're following them all the way through the funnel in making sure that they know all of the things to see and do, make sure that we have strong consideration versus other destinations, and then finally in activation, booking, making sure that they take action. From the markets, we've got a 50% split into the drive markets, 50% into the fly markets, and between both agencies, we're completely aligned on that target audience of 25 to 65-year-olds, 100+ household income, and certain segments that we really kind of lean into are primary areas of interest: the beach, outdoors, arts enthusiasts, as well as some niche markets like LGBTQ and Latinx. So the kind of the foundation of Always On is what you would expect. We're in Google, we're in YouTube, we're in the social media channels. There's also the digital display components that you would typically see at primary publishers, as well as more interactive things, new ways that digital media allows people to not just see an ad, but interact with it, to get to content that interests them, to find the things that they want to do, get more information, as well as seeing, hearing, and understanding everything in the destination. These are renewals of what we've done with Hulu, Nativo, Undertone, Adgenuity. We're crossing a variety of different video, as well as articles, content that's living aside and adjacent to content that's aligned to make sure that there's great engagement. Undertone is one of the folks that we work with that does very cool interactive types of digital ads that allow people to click, play with, explore, and discover different aspects of the destination in a single digital ad unit. So very exciting, high-tech kind of way of promoting the destination and engaging with different audiences. And finally, Adgenuity is our primary display partner that we use for premium inventory, as well as partnering with TripAdvisor to, again, engage with top audiences. On CTV for Hulu, little wrinkle, we did a nice, fun kind of interactive unit before that told a little bit more from a storytelling. We're switching over to a much more video forward type of integration. So if you're sitting at home and you're watching your television, you'll see a video that comes up, as well as having the opportunity to click into other videos that talk to other aspects of the destination and allow you to really see what's of interest to you. Custom content comes through our partner Nativo. And one of the things that's so powerful about native advertising, and if you're not familiar with native, native is where when you're doing and creating an advertising unit, it looks and it has contextual alignment with what is the publication that you're participating in. So for example, if you're putting a content piece, really an advertisement, into the Smithsonian.com or into AtlasObscura.com, the ad text and the story is aligned with what you're seeing and reading about that's already of interest to you. And because they're aligned, you've got really solid targeting and very, very high engagement. They work together, and they work together very effectively. And a lot of times too, even though you're in what's an ad unit, because it's at Forbes.com, Smithsonian.com, you're still staying within their formatting and their look and feel. So it doesn't even really look like an ad in most cases. That's one of the reasons why we see the engagement so high. Undertone, as I mentioned, this is a good example of that interactivity. It's an ad unit that allows you to explore what's in interest to you. And because it's interactive, it's fun. It's something that you can play with, enjoy, and see content in a way that's engaging. We've got some premium sites that we're working with. TripAdvisor has what's called the Navigator platform that allows you to really target in on destination. So you're finding folks that are looking for the destinations, that have a history in browsing of similar content, as well as a search history that indicates that they're going to be a perfect target for you to communicate all of the wonderful things here in Pinellas County. In addition, Nast Publications has a collection. You can see some of the great publications here, Travel and Leisure, Nast Traveler, Vanity Fair, Vogue. These are the type of high, upper income lifestyle publications that are perfect placements for a lot of the advertising that we're promoting. And for spring and summer of 22, we've got some new things that we're doing. We want to make sure that we're getting in and leaning into more podcasts and audio. We've got some new brand partnerships rolling out. Long form content, again, those native ads that are storytelling ads, again, I think are very important in helping us convey the multidimensionality of the destination and being able to go a little bit more in depth in explaining why visiting Pinellas County, St. Pete Clearwater is such a great choice for folks, as well as some custom co-op opportunities that allow us to really engage with the partners. So Spotify, podcasts. Podcasts, as you know, are extremely popular. We've seen a tremendous surge in the amount of folks that are downloading podcasts. It's an important platform. You can't just be in one media. A lot of times you need to really diversify. So podcasts are an important part of that whole component. And it's a network that reaches over 3.2 million with 1,000 original and exclusive content that allow us to introduce the destination in a very nice way and engage with audiences from this medium. In addition, from just streaming, we'll be working with Spotify as well in reaching 87 million audience, targeting very carefully, making sure we're aligned with content, in addition to going in and doing some targeting within the LGBTQ and Latinx markets as well. Custom content in Culture Trip was a unique opportunity that was exciting for us and a real new opportunity in that Culture Trip kind of does a nice job of looking at different kinds of content within a specific ad unit. So for example, when partnering with them, we're enabled to do the storytelling, the social interaction, a variety of different ways to make sure that we're effectively engaging with audiences. It's custom social video with a kind of a user-generated content or UGC feel. It looks authentic, it feels authentic, and again, kind of distance you a little bit from an advertising unit and more allows you to truly engage. In addition, there will be 2 articles that are created, some high-impact display, as well as social amplification, promoting through the 8.5 million US followers within the Culture Trip audience. New partner is Smithsonian. So certainly for the arts and culture enthusiasts, Smithsonian is a well-recognized brand. Pairing with brands that have that value brings value to the destination. It's kind of a transference of the loyalty, the excitement, the dedication of the Smithsonian audience to the extremely unique arts and culture offerings here in the destination. And that transference of brand identity is a big part of Atlas Obscura, the New York Times, a lot of the things that we're doing when we're looking at custom content with brand partners. Travel Zoo, not a new name, but they've got some new products this year in that they're doing 2 different kinds of ways. One is a destination showcase. So much like what you're seeing here for Arizona, for San Diego, you're taking the best of the best, curating articles, images, and other content to help folks really understand the destination better, dial into things of interest, and be able to engage at a real high consideration and awareness level on beaches, arts and culture, and craft beer. In addition, with TravelZoo, there's another component that's new, which is really the Partners Showcase. That allows us to pair the destination content with partner travel offers. It's again a little lower in the funnel now, so that we're getting into the booking, making sure that they're taking action, driving to partners to create value for them. Expedia, another well-known brand in the industry. Expedia has excellent co-op programs, and a lot of what we see is when bringing VSPC together with partners through distribution channels like Expedia, is that we get very good participation in driving the bookings and creating that economic activity and making sure that we're doing well in terms of occupancy, bed tax, and all of the other desirable economic impact. Two areas of that would be the co-op program that allows partners to buy in multiple investment levels based on their marketing budget, so it's scalable for a variety of different businesses. And in addition, we'll be using banner and native ads to drive to custom landing pages that target travelers searching for St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and against competing destinations. And then one other component that's new is driving along the longer stays. So one of the things, again, is that we wanted to say that there's so much here in this destination to see, you can't just do it in 2 or 3 days. You need to plan a longer stay. So a lot of the visuals and the messaging within the campaign are focused on making sure that folks understand that it's kind of a fear of missing out. That if you don't book a 4, 5, 6, 7 night vacation, you're not going to be able to see and do all that there is here in the destination. So that's digital. I don't know if, Carmen, do we want to just go through on the media recommendations? Was there anything or budgeting that we wanted to cover, or is we're all good? Thank you very much. Sure.
When you were talking about TripAdvisor, how are you reaching out? Are you serving up ads? Are you working with TripAdvisor to be able to follow those people and serve ads? Is that what you're doing, or?
Expedia typically allows us to do tracking. They're our customer. We'll get the booking performance data and everything else, but what we do is work within Expedia to do specific targeting by interest, by demographic, by all of the other parameters that are part of the advertising buy. So we're very specific at how we target and promote within the Expedia network. And then there are other pathways through Expedia to get to the content.
So they're actually funneling you through to the consumers we're looking for.
With direction from our team in the media planners is how they figure out the buy and the targeting and who we want to speak to. Because there's different kinds of content in Expedia too, a lot of what Expedia knows about their guests helps us to be able to understand their interests, their travel propensity, how many trips they typically travel per year. A tremendous amount of data that allows us to get very specific to say, you travel a lot, you like beaches, you do this, you do that, you're going to see it versus somebody else who may not have those specific interests.
Further questions? Yes, sir.
Scott, how do we look at the slide you had up there of trending, it showed trending markets? And I'm sitting here thinking about the trending markets. Are we spending enough time? And how do we measure it from what you have on this measurement? And then maybe I want to say old markets that haven't come back in the last 2 years because of the pandemic completely, but they're sitting out there. Can we get those sources? And how do we evaluate to come back to Scott and say, or to staff and say, we're starting to move over here a little bit more. We're seeing where we are. And the third part is, do we measure rates at all? Rate increases are moving very high. And what happens in those evaluations when you look at digital versus that?
At a very high level,
yeah,
I will say Visit St. Pete Clearwater probably has better access to data than most of the DMOs that Miles Partnership works with. And there are sources like Adara, there are the advertising network sources, there's Google Analytics sources, there's destination analyst data, there's STR data, there is home rental industry data. All of those data sources really come together to allow us to see where the trending markets are. It was about, excuse me, 2.5 years ago, Texas started to trend. And we started to see Toronto and some other things. Some of that was site traffic, some of that was Adara data. And Adara is a pretty unusual data source. What Adara does is it allows us for all of our digital ads to put a little pixel in there that says, I want to know when somebody looks at this ad. Adara then takes that and understands that person because they have access to United Airlines, Hilton Hotels, and about 100 other data partners that share the data with Adara. Adara knows that somebody that saw our ad stayed at a Hilton, flew on United, and did other activity on their credit card from data coming from Visa. All of that data, because we understand very specifically that that little pixel linked us to that specific person, and we get their actual spending data, we're able to say that ad resulted in a visit, resulted in so much economic activity, this is where they're from, and this is where we're advertising, and we want to match up where we're advertising with where people are spending and where people are coming from and what people are doing when they're actually in the destination. All of that together, you layer in STR, you layer in Google Analytics, you layer in the other data, and collectively that informs the strategy of what we're doing. Each month, we go through and look at the performance of how many clicks are we getting in this market, in Indianapolis versus Chicago, in Dallas versus Toronto. How much spend? What's the actual efficiency of what we spend in that market to how much we drive in economic activity from Adara, from site visits on the website, to stays in our hotels from the STR occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR data. All of that collectively together is the giant mess that Kayla and other folks that are on the Miles Media Planning team are weeding through to develop strategy. And it requires constant calibration. Hope that answers your question.
If I could ask though, should we be asking now a little more detail from you on a report on new markets that are trending or whatever it is, and give us a little update in looking at that way? Because as a hotel and all, you're taking care of it for us, but we're also working other programs also that we'd like to know, should we be staying in that market or not, or is it more traditional?
We welcome that. I think that's always smart, and we do a good job of working with the VSBC team. We're always excited to hear from partners within the marketplace, to share, to collaborate, to learn. I absolutely think that there's opportunity to increase what happens on partner communications to make sure that we're collectively working together, and so that you have the information, okay, this is getting hammered pretty well in traditional media through the standard buys. I might want to supplement a little bit in some of my unique markets that perform well for me, because everybody's a little bit different, their followings. And so a lot of times I think when you can look at that in a really holistic kind of fashion, you're going to be more effective, both on your side and our side. So absolutely welcome that.
I think we should, for example, with our hotel, we've put a lot more emphasis in Nashville. And it's increasing. It's a great market to have, but then I worrying about Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. That was a traditional market that's not there on the list at all, or it's just barely trending. So that's why I'm asking that question, that maybe we should be getting a little bit more information, what's next type of thing.
And you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Things move. Texas was popping in the pandemic. I think when air service was limited to some of the big markets that were international markets like Cancun, that came to Florida. And it's still strong because we leaned in at that time and we're holding on, and it's performing very well. Other markets in the pandemic were very interesting. The Northeast fell, the Midwest increased, and there's shifts there, and we're seeing it shift back to its more traditional pattern, in that the Northeast is definitely heating up compared to where the Midwest was 2 years ago. And so those are the kinds of things where hopefully together, I think we have a better understanding of how those shifts are changing, what's realizing the true arrivals into the destination, and how better to market, tap in, and make sure that we're stimulating as much as we can.
You summed it up.
Ms. Moore, did you have something?
Yes, I think directing more to Steve, related to what we've heard from Miles and from BVK as it relates to arts and culture. How is VSPC interfacing and utilizing Creative Pinellas in this regard are you all working together? Give me some feedback on how that's doing, because I'm wouldn't think that you're reinventing the wheel in terms of your arts and culture marketing. So,
And great question on that. And actually, I think, as you probably know, working with Creative Pinellas, for us, I want to be have it a symbiotic relationship. So, like, one of the things that I've talked to Barbara about is, if we're going to be out taking a message, let's say to the Atlanta market, and you get Atlanta visitors in here, what can she be doing to help let the visitors in the market know these are the great things that are going on, whether it be an event, a venue, exhibits, what all the various things are. So I think that's one aspect of that. The other element is working with other major institutions and entities to make sure that sharing with them what we're doing. Because again, a lot of this is brand new in terms of the push that we have, whether it be through the media, the creative, any of that. So we want to make sure that we're out there hitting the right things. Because again, it's a different audience than what you would have that would normally go to the beach. Doesn't mean they're not going to go there, but they're going to have more of that relationship in visiting, let's say, a museum or going to a performance or something along that line, and then they'll take in the beach as their secondary option. So I know that both marketing partners have also looked at specific data related to that visitor and then built plans around that data.
because not hearing Creative Pinellas mentioned, and I wouldn't think that Miles or BVK necessarily would be interfacing with them as the county's arts council, so to speak. I would think that would be your role to kind of help facilitate that and make sure that the resources that Creative Pinellas has and their relationships with all of the different artists and facilities that we have throughout the county, so that gets focused. So I appreciate that. And then the other part, you and I've had ongoing conversations about the vacation rental data. And I'm still not clear on where we are with that to help identify, what sources are we using and how can we flesh that out? Because my comments and discussion with Steve have been that not all of the companies who do these vacation rentals, not all of the resorts that are vacation resort type properties their information is not necessarily being filtered in. And Steve and I have had ongoing conversations, so if you can update us.
And actually on that, Jeffrey's had a conversation with Key Data. He's actually on his honeymoon, and so I didn't get a report back from him to hear what the conversation was. But really what Doreen's referring to, and it's like this with Smith Travel, you only have so much data. You're not going to have 100% participation, but yet you don't want 20% participation. So you want to get a bigger slice of the data by having more people participate. So we want to ensure that we're getting a higher participation rate from the property management companies so that the data we have is more true to what's being out there. Right now on Smith, it's roughly about 78% for STR on the hotel side. So if I can get 75%, 70% on the vacation rental, I'm good. And I think right now we're probably about 40 to 50%. I'm guessing.
And I'm reluctant to agree with those numbers. So I know it's something that's a work in progress, and I think it's very important because as the tourism arm and the sales tax collection, bed tax collections As we've seen with the reports, recognizing as it's changed over the years, the importance of the vacation rental site. And that if we don't have accurate numbers or a healthy representation, it's not really benefiting us overall, when you have such a small reflection. So I appreciate your efforts on that and look forward to being kept up to date. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor?
I agree with Doreen wholeheartedly on the vacation rentals. We need to have more detailed and more of that information, because I think it informs all kinds of things. I mean, beyond what we're even thinking, business investment. So anyway, that wasn't why I raised my hand. I don't know who would want to answer this question, but in the presentation we just saw, one of the things we saw was that we have about a 50% drive market and a 50% fly market. And that seems a little different than what we've experienced before. I'm just curious as how does it compare to the last quarter or the last 6 months previous? Does anybody know that? And you can certainly get back to us or shoot us an email. I would just like to understand how that ranks. Is it different? It feels like it's different.
It does change. One of the things that we saw was a real strong recurrence during the pandemic outbreak in drive.
Right.
And so we shifted to that. Typically, the fly market is a very good guess from the standpoint of longer stay, hotel stay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have a little bit more of a share within the drive market to stay with friends and relatives, other kinds of things. And all of that is something that we look at to really hit the optimal mix with the way that we're targeting, the way that we're marketing, and the economic value. With a lot of this data and statistics that we get, we look at efficiency, and from the Adara data, we layer that again against how much economic value the different markets provide. And so when you're figuring out mixes in media, there's a variety of different types of media that we're using that allow us to find an optimal mix. When you're looking at SCM, for example, you're really broad brush hitting across all of the different destinations. When you're looking at other types of media, you're looking at specific markets where you want to kind of come in with a set buy. What we found is as that shifts and as we look at the different trends, we adjust that appropriately. 50-50 was from the media planning and analytics department, just the right mix for where we are, given all of the propensities that we're seeing for how many people are flying, how many people are traveling, and how much economic value.
So on your presentation, what I thought, and I could have been mistaken, so feel free to tell me I'm wrong. Everybody else does. What I thought it was telling us was that was the trend, was the 50% drive and 50% fly. But what I'm hearing is that's how you're advertising.
It's how we target.
Gotcha.
The allocation.
Okay, so that's
Correct.
different. Okay.
And the other thing is winter, we tend to see fly increase.
Right, because it's cold.
So you'll see some
Right.
different values there in
Sure.
our winter campaign than summer.
Okay, then the other question I had, and again, it may be you, Steve. It was late last summer, and I don't remember exactly when, we got a whole very large presentation on what our marketing plan was for the next 6 months. And what I'd like to, and we talked about some new markets. I think it was Indiana, I think it was Chicago, it might have been Nashville, I don't remember them all. It was a few, plus the arts. I'd like to know how we've done in those markets, like a comparison now. We've done it, how's it working? And again, if you can't answer that question today, that's totally fine. But I kind of thought that's what today was gonna be, and I don't think I either missed it or I didn't glean that from today.
Yeah, more for today was to talk about the
What's next?
the next 6
Yeah.
months. Because again, I think in the past, you've had presentations where in October, or September, we've presented and said, here's what we're gonna do for the next year.
Yeah,
And
you're
what I-
whittling it down in smaller chunks. I see that.
Exactly, because there may be some changes. There's changes that have been done both through BVK and Miles, where we didn't do that in the first 6 months, but we introduced it in the second 6 months. But
I just think it's helpful to know how you did in that since we are doing it in smaller chunks, to see how we've been trending, at least. You might not have the whole 6-month information, but to see how you're trending, to understand, what's next.
Yeah, and I.
And again, you can just bring it back some other time. It's fine.
Well, and Mayor, what I was going to say is, Carmen and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't we doing another ad effectiveness? So that'll be on that portion. So we presented that ad effectiveness on the 6 months prior to that.
Okay.
So this one will be the next version, and this is
Gotcha.
what we plan on doing
Okay.
each two times a year.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say the ad tracker will help answer some of that, and it showed, our last one that we did was showing how we were progressing in those markets. And so we will compare exactly, we'll have, this will be like our second one that we'll have numbers to compare against, from the one that we ran before.
Mayor Hibbard.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to belabor this. I wanted to just hear a little bit more about the stats that Doreen wants, because we are seeing a lot more vacation rental in our T district, which is where we still allow it. We've got a lot of new product coming on.
What's the T district?
It's our tourist district.
Oh, gotcha.
In our ordinance, we don't allow short-term rentals in the residential area on North Beach, but in the T district, 23 that are grandfathered in. Everything south of the Acacia Circle, though, to the Sand Key Bridge is our T district. And we have a new condo hotel that's all 3 2s. And we have a new project that's coming on. We've got these units that are 8 bedrooms.
Oh, my God.
And 6 bath with their own individual pools.
Oh, my God.
But they're attached dwellings. And we're trying to anticipate what the impact of those are going to be.
A lot of cars.
A lot of people. But what are some of the statistics that you're hoping to get? Because I'm curious.
Your microphone, please.
It's like the STAR report, you only have the statistics on ROI and the occupancy numbers and all those things related to the people who are reporting into the system. And my concern has been that I don't necessarily think that Key Data is getting all of these property management companies. And in order to do that, it's like the hotels with a STAR report, you have to pay for it. So I'm not seeing, for me personally, I'm not necessarily reporting to Key Data simply because I wasn't seeing the benefit of the amount of money that it was going to cost me to be in their reporting. I'm reversing that in that we as an agency need those numbers. And I don't care, I don't need to know what my competitor's doing. It's like the hoteliers. It needs to be funneled into some source that give us the actual occupancy numbers and the dollars and the tax collection and all those things to see the impact overall, because the condo hotels are being added. And those are being, how are those being reported? And so it's the same information as the STAR report, but we have to find a way to maximize on those numbers. And the way we were doing it in prior years, many years ago, prior research company sent out a fax and you filled out numbers and it went back in to the research company, and even that wasn't entirely accurate because it was kind of randomly. This month they spoke to this person and that month they spoke to someone else, and with technology, we need to find a way to be able to assimilate those numbers without it having to be driven on how many rooms I have, so how much is it going to cost me to be in the report?
That answer, yeah, it's, having been around the block a few times in this, the old days of the fax and getting the information is one way that now that you can do it, you look at everything online, but then it depends on whose system talks to whose system and all the things that go with it. So we always try to find a way to improve, and what we're looking at is how do we get those that are currently not involved in a way that gives us better sample size and participation. And I think what might be good is to go through and actually do a report just on key data so you can see the types of information we do get and what we don't get. So it, kind of, and for the body as a whole, you go through it and look at that.
And one other point to that is that because you've got individual condo hotels managed by different companies, is maybe educating us, the vacation rental industry, as to why we should be reporting. And maybe there's a benefit that I'm missing, that, somebody's gonna have to contact each one of these resorts and through VSPC, make them aware of why it's important and how it can help everyone overall. So there's an education component there too.
Thank you.
I would just add, it would be great to have that information by city and be able to compare that against hotels.
I was going to adjourn, but Mayor Welch has something.
Yeah, no pressure there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to agree with the other part of Ms. Moore's statement about the arts. As we move forward, I'd really like to understand how we get input from the arts community, what Creative Pinellas' role and the other arts alliances around the county is, both in formulating the marketing, but also in measuring the impact. I've heard an awful lot of this during the campaign last year, and as you know, there were a couple of forums and debates where this issue came up. So I'd like to understand as we talk about strategic planning. That was less than a minute, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon, and Ms. Boyce, appreciate your presentation today.
So I guess I get to do cleanup here at the end. So I will go through this very quickly. Hopefully they'll bring the slides up.
I was just kidding about adjournment. I was just wanting to give the mayor a hard time.
You never know. All right, first thing I want to go over, because we did talk about TDT collections earlier. This is for the month of January. 7.4 million was collected, which was up 75% over 2021 and 31% over 2019. Year to date, we're at 25 million compared to 14 million in fiscal year 21. The graph really says it all. So if you look at the line that has the blue dots and black line, that is 2022. The yellow circles with the dashed black line is 21, so you can see where we are above that, and we're above 19, and we're above 20. So bottom line, and I feel for Jim, because when he was, when we had the conversation of trying to forecast where we were going to be, I never would have picked this scenario. And again, when we look at it and go to the next slide, when you go. Yeah, well, the reverse of it would be if it was going down, what ends up happening. But I think this slide, when you look at the hotel occupancy, again, this is for January. You look at 2022, we were at 61% overall compared to 51% in 21. And basically, at this point in time, we're going to stop using 19 because 21 is going to stand on its own actually after this month. Because you really saw, huge spikes in business for 21 starting in March of last year. So you can see we were up in occupancy, but then look at the rate difference. So that's driving, driving that increase in the TDT. When you get down to vacation rental, there's the data related to that for the month of January. And then also down at the bottom, what the occupancy and ADR was at the beach, but also in inland. And again, as a reminder, beach is anything west of the intercoastal. Inland is anything east of the intercoastal. Let me go to the next slide. All right, this is something I did want to show because there was a report out earlier where they were talking about how Tampa and Miami were leading the recovery in 21 in the state. And what I wanted to do was go through and look, and this is just on Smith Traveler, STR data. And so when you look at the top 25 markets, MSAs, in the United States that STR looks at on a monthly basis, the Tampa market, which it says Tampa, really is Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. So it is the region. In calendar year 21, so for 12 months, we ranked first in occupancy. We were fourth in ADR and third in RevPAR, RevPAR being revenue per available room. So now I'm paying attention to that a little bit more closely on a weekly basis, especially as we're in full-blown recovery here. So the week of January 31st, we were third all the way across in occupancy, ADR, RevPAR. The week of February 20th, we were first in occupancy, second in ADR, second in RevPAR. Week of February 27th, third in occupancy, second in ADR, second in RevPAR. I just got our weekly data this morning. I looked at it real quickly. I just don't have the rest of the U.S. But you're looking at last week, the week of March 6th, average occupancy, 83% compared to 81 the week prior. Rate 254 compared to 232 the week prior. RevPAR 210 versus 195. So the numbers continue to go up. And how I look at it with the top 25 markets, when I look at the Tampa Bay area, is I see whether we're below it or above it. If we're above it, it means we're bringing the region up. If we're below it, then we might be bringing the region down. But right now, from a competitive set, primarily competing, Miami pretty much, if they're not first, they're second, both in all of those areas. Oahu will come in there as well. And then like for the week of January 31st, actually LA was ahead of us. And the only reason why it ended up being because it was Super Bowl in LA. So again, just another metric to look at how we're doing. And I'm sure that our hotel friends will certainly agree based on that data. Next slide. Graphically, just to look at this, black line represents 2022, blue is 19, and the orange is 21. This is looking at occupancy just at the hotel motel level. And again, you see where we were in between 21 and 19 up until March. And then March last year is when we started to exceed. So we're right at that point this year. Next page. Visitor profile, just some key elements. Daily spend is up this year. Your party size is pretty much equal. Still a very short decision time period. And this was amplified. We had a meeting recently with Edelweiss talking about the nonstop from Zurich. And we were meeting with the CEO, and I asked the question, I was like, in normal times, what was your booking pattern? And they were looking at 4 to 6 months. He said they're looking at 4 to 6 weeks right now. So this is even internationally, the booking pattern is very short. The percent stayed overnight increased dramatically over 21. We did see a drop in average income from 118,000 down to 97,000. Again, this is just for January of 22. The last couple things I wanted to go through and mention, next month is, for our April meeting, is our budget meeting. So that'll be from 9, and we told you to hold you block off until 2. We will have lunch. Last year, we didn't make it all the way to 2. We actually were short of that. So I'm sure that the chair is out to break that record. But we had really good discussion, so we'll have all that information for discussion next month. I also did want to mention, because, again, we're already looking at May. May 1st through the 8th is National Travel and Tourism Week. And we'll have a number of activities going on that week. Everything from a travel rally at St. Pete Clearwater National Airport. We're putting together a informational session looking at probably the future of travel. We'll be participating in a couple of events that are taking place. One is the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber has a typical luncheon that'll be on Thursday. In addition, Visit Tampa Bay has their luncheon on Thursday. We are doing a beach cleanup on Wednesday, inviting not only of staff but of the industry. And then on Friday, we will be competing to retain the Pineapple Cup when we take on the folks at Visit Tampa Bay in a competition. Last year, we won in shuffleboard, and it won quite heartily. This year, they have chosen bocce ball. So they get to choose. So we're going to go over. We'll be practicing in the office and getting ourselves ready to take on that team. But a great way to interact with our partners across the Bay. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Anything from the board members? Mayor?
Is there any way we could start that budget meeting like at 8:30? I mean, I'd just soon start at 7:30, but I know not everybody's morning people, but 8:30, maybe a half hour early?
At will of the board. I was here this morning much earlier than that, so. 8:30? Does that work with staff? Steve?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll make that, you'll get the calendar change from Liz.
Mr. Prather?
Thank you, Chair. It's dealing with just quick questions on the budget. I'm always amazed, Jim, you and your staff do a fantastic job with Steve forecasting these numbers. I asked this a couple years ago, so I apologize for asking again. We pay the tax collector $500,000 or so to collect our bed tax, and you have that as a line item on page 2 of the budget you gave us this morning. You budgeted $600,000, which is fine. But on page 1, under operating expenses, you have intergovernmental expenses, which obviously is not the tax collector. Can you help me with what some of those might be? $1 million, $2 million?
I believe that those are BTS charges for the technology, full cost allocation, which covers the cost to run the government, the salaries of the commissioners, the salaries of OMB, various salaries that support CVB that they don't pay for. They're paid for by general fund dollars. I believe that's the bulk of them.
Okay, it was just this.
Some risk charges for, just the risk to the employees, if they travel and things like that. So
Okay.
those are the bulk of it. And also, I don't have a staff. I'm one person.
Wow,
But
amazing.
Terry and, Steve's staff put this report together. I'm actually work for the Management and Budget Office, so I don't want you to think that.
I can give you some credit.
No, there's I work with Steve's staff on all this stuff, and this is mainly their report.
Second question for you, Steve. So we've got budgeted $67 million for '22. Last year, we were at north of 70, and it certainly looks with your graph that we should hopefully exceed even that number. So if we collect once again, I'll use the budget number of 67. We pay out 9 million in operating and personnel and 28, we'll call that, that leaves about $30 million left over each year for capital projects. And so of that $30 million, and we do the 60-40 split, we obviously talk so much about museums and what we're going to spend on the capital. What happens to the surplus in the non-capital? It keeps growing and growing, but how are we gonna spend that? We're not gonna spend more than 14 million in advertising, it wouldn't go there, so help me understand how this growing surplus on that side of the ledger is gonna work.
Jim, before I answer, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I'll let you answer.
So, and this is a discussion that, in fact, Jim and I and Terry are meeting on Friday to talk about budget for next year.
Okay.
And one of the things that I want to look at is if we have a fund balance that's out there, there is a minimum amount in that fund balance that needs to be kept. The county has a policy on that. In addition, I want to go through and identify dollars that could be set aside for what I'm going to call business continuity. Something happens. It could be man-made, it could be weather, it could be pandemic, whatever. And we have to go out and let folks know that we're either open, not open, we've got to generate business, that money is set aside in there so that we're able to go through and do that. And then in addition to that is, again, looking at the operations of Visit St. Pete Clearwater, and again, from a business continuity standpoint. So like during pandemic, we borrowed money that we repaid back to capital, but we had taken money from there. I'd like to have identified in that fund balance. And then I think the rest of it that is available, how do we go through and identify maybe specific programs that can be done that would be of priority with specific outcomes that we were looking for. Pick whatever that particular item might be. So I think it's good to have a healthy savings account, but I also think at some point you've got to, once you've reached that point, is then what's the best way to spend those dollars in a way that will still have a positive impact back in the community and the industry.
And thank you very much for that answer. Right now, on the budget, on page 2, you show $47+ million in reserves for operating and $42 million for capital. And once again, we've had enough discussion about the capital. That's not my question today. It's the 47, which really is higher than that, and it's going to grow again by the surplus for this year. So it's very prudent that we do keep a reserve. We saw that in the pandemic. You needed $5+ million, and you had it. But you still got arguably $50 million. So I just trying to figure out, what are we going to do with that $50 million that's going to continue to grow?
Well, and just as I explained, that's what I'd like to be able to do. That's the discussion I want to have with the budget office, and then what other parameters go with that. And again, I don't know if other conversations have been had by this body on utilizing those dollars in that way. I don't know if this body, if we've ever had a fund balance that high.
So I would propose to the chairman that we do have maybe a line item in the budget, or line item in the agenda to discuss that. This fund balance keeps getting higher and higher, and it's meant to promote and market our destination, that side of the ledger. We have, what, $1 million+ we do for events that we give away, or we help sponsor. Once again, the fund balance on that side is just getting so high. I think a discussion needs to, and a direction needs to be discussed. What are we going to do? Because every year that's going to get higher and higher. And it's not meant for museums. It's not meant for the things we talked about, which are the exceptions that the state gave us to spend TDC dollars on. This is just for marketing and advertisement and promotion of our destination.
Well, you got to ask yourself, how did you get there too? If because that's usually something about budgeting.
Mayor Hibberd.
I think it's worth a future discussion. When we're seeing occupancies at the level that they're at, I don't know that we need to be doing additional advertising right now. I always think we need to be promoting the destination. Having been on this board on and off now for 20 years, unfortunately, there will come a time when we need more dry powder. You know, back when we had the oil spill, we weren't affected directly. We sure needed more money to tell the story that we weren't. You know, when red tide comes, whenever inevitable things happen in this state, and we are a boom and bust economy, you know, nobody believes it's going to happen again. It will happen again. So I think we need to keep some reserves that are fairly sizable so that during those times, we have the arsenal that we need.
Further discussion? Mr. Kimball.
Just to add to the mayor's comments is that as we look over that 20 years also, we're in a new time. Our occupancy is still, when you looked at it, is still below 19. We're all rate driven is where it is today. We're not sure how long this rate driven is going to stay in place and everything. So I think that he's right on that we need to look at the next ups and downs and everything. But it's an interesting time. It's a new time for us that's different. So discussions are certainly needed as we follow through. But this is all rate driven now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's always part of that discussion of, you know, how much, where do we, you never want to take the foot off the gas because you're always scared of doing that. But how much is too much? When do we hit our number of, we can't take any more people? And that, but to be honest, I did not realize our operating reserves were as healthy as they were on that. The capital I knew because we hadn't committed to anything recently, but it's an interesting discussion that we'll have, and I assume that we'll get knee deep in that in our April meeting. Mr. Anderson.
I think it's good to have the reserves right now. I think we'll find a way to spend it later. What we experienced last year was you couldn't go to Europe, you couldn't go to the Caribbean, you couldn't go on a cruise ship, everybody came to Florida. And we're seeing that continue. But as the cruise ships become popular again, as the Caribbean opens up more, as we work our way out of the pandemic, we're going to have those competitive factors again, and we will need to advertise more perhaps. Hopefully, Europeans will come back at the same time, and other markets will grow. But having that reserve now is good. I think we'll find in the next couple of years how we can spend it.
Oh, I'm sure that there's some folks on that side of the room that can help us figure out how to spend an extra few million.
Or 50.
Or 50. Mayor Welch.
No, I look forward to the conversation. I think it's a great issue that you've raised, and always appreciate Russ's wisdom on this. One of the issues that we've heard a lot about is a permanent level of support for the arts. So when we get to that discussion, I'd like to talk about that as well.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, we had great discussion today, in depth from our partners, and I think very productive conversation on our capital. And unless there's anything else for the good of the order, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.